What's up, YouTube? I'm going to change gear here from my usual shtick for a minute to talk about a little garden that I started this year. So this is the first time actually, and incredibly considering all the other DIY projects I've done in the past, that I've started a garden. And it's a little spin on traditional gardening at that. And here I've got a little Roma seedling. As you can see, it's actually a late bloomer. And here are his two brothers down here at the base that sprouted roughly at the same time. But the smaller one, for whatever reason, didn't grow as fast. And I think that might be because, as I was going to say, I'm putting a little spin on gardening by only using produce scraps from past supermarket purchases. So, that's what we have here. And this one actually, it's funny, the larger one here, this one sprouted second, and the smaller one sprouted first, and yet the larger one is, yeah, so that's, just goes to show you. And originally what I did here, if you'll notice, this is my garlic. This is California soft neck garlic, and you can see there's some, I've never grown this before, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on here, but there's something else spawning out of it. So, but it's growing. I mean, you can see the soil is kind of rocky. I mean, and as for soil here, this is all reclaimed material. So, for example, these are all crushed eggshells that was in that little plot. I've been putting them in there since late March, April. A Japanese friend of mine shared a video with me back in March. And it was one of those short little viral Facebook DIY videos about regrowing vegetables from kitchen scraps. So I became really enamored with this idea, and I decided to experiment with various things to see how far I could take it. And so yeah, I've been reclaiming all of these things. Here's some onion and garlic skins. Instead of throwing it in the trash, I'm saving it. And I've got another little sort of composting area for this type of thing. So, yeah, I don't actually know how good of a crop I'll grow, but it's an interesting little experiment. And I've dedicated myself to using only recycled or upcycled materials, as you can see here. This is some trees, some branches that from some trees that were growing around the sides of the house that had to be cut down. And I kind of hung on to these branches so that I could repurpose them as tomato stakes. And so I haven't even put, less than $10 total into this, which is part of my goal, is to see, like, how far can I stretch a buck. So that's what I'm doing here, basically. I'm putting a little spin on gardening. I'm just using, I don't know how good of a crop it's going to be. I started with herbs. Like, here's basil. Now, originally, this was a real learning experience. There's some onions there, green onions on the right-hand side in the corner. And, the basil grows really well. That's one thing that I'll probably try to see as this progresses, as the seasons change from summer into winter. And I'll see what else can grow indoors throughout the season. Basil so far seems to be doing really well. I mean, you can't really tell from this. But I started a second plant as well. So the leaves look really small. And it doesn't look quite as robust as it ordinarily would, because I just continually harvest from it to cook tomato basil sauce, which, it's very potent. And surprisingly, I got some basil, from the supermarket, and I put the stems in water, and they grew, and then I potted them. And I used backyard soil, which I microwaved to sterilize it, and then I put it into these. All of this stuff was stuff that was just hanging around the house. And I rent a room from a roommate, and his aunts used to garden, I suppose. But their specialty was they put their main emphasis on flowers, and so I've repurposed it for edible things. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing, and it should be interesting. I'll do an update once the tomatoes start to flower and bloom. Until then, peace.